Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Real Talks Dominate Real Estate. I'm Charlie Bengel.
And I'm Meaza. Grab a cup of coffee and let's make your real estate career better.
Happy Friday, Eyerusalem. Always good to see you. What's in the news today?
Happy Friday. Mortgage rates fell to another record low this week, the 8th record set this year, but home affordability is weakening as the housing shortage, high demand from buyers, and rising home prices negate the benefits of lower rates. Only 59.6% of new and existing homes sold in the second quarter of this year were considered affordable to families earning an adjusted median income of $72,900, according to the National Association of Home Builders Wells Fargo Housing Opportunity Index. That's down from 61.3% in the first quarter of 2020 and is the lowest reading in 18 months. NAHB did make an adjustment to median income estimates to account for the coronavirus pandemic. The index based its calculations on the national median home price, jumping to a record of $300,000 from $280,000 in average mortgage rates, falling 27 basis points. The inventory of existing homes for sale at the end of June was down 18.2% annually, according to the National Association of Realtors, leaving just a 4-month supply available. Supplies of newly built homes also fell 14.5 annually, according to the U.S. Census. The number of homes for sale has reached some of the lowest levels since online platforms began tracking inventory, leading to a frenzied environment of multiple bids, price escalation clauses, and inspection waivers. While lower mortgage rates certainly give buyers more spending power, they also support higher home prices, and price gains reaccelerated in June after slowing in May, according to CoreLogic. In other news, as record low mortgage rates prompt a wave in both home buying and refinancing, appraisers may have a tough time keeping up. Lenders are reporting turnaround times for appraisals are increasing and, as a result, lengthening the underwriting process. Lenders informally surveyed by Housing Wire are reporting that they're being quoted 2 to 3 weeks for an appraisal. One lender reported an appraisal that was to take 10 days, came back nearly 27 days later. Some appraisers in hot markets like Colorado are saying they can't make it out to a property in 4 weeks or more, Housing Wire reports. What's happening is because it's difficult to become an appraiser. Phil Treadwell, Vice President of Development and Regional Manager for Mason McDuffie Mortgage, told Housing Wire. And because you have to go through third parties whenever you have a spike in production, those agencies and appraisers get backed up. There's not a whole lot that can be done, but at the end of the day, we have a finite number of appraisers. Brian Covey, Vice President of Regional Production for Loan Depot, also says that the industry is seeing a limited number of underwriters to keep up with the demand. As lockdown restrictions eased in May, mortgage volume began to surge. Low mortgage rates are creating a need for more underwriters and appraisers, lenders say. Once the silver lining, the industry says appraisal waivers are increasing in some markets. Property inspection waivers through automated underwriting systems and consumer-friendly online documented exchanges have helped to speed up the process and keep employees and families safe along the way. But companies that do not have the technology to speed up in the process says transparency will be necessary. Charlie, what's going on with rates?
Thanks, Eyerusalem. Rates, like you mentioned a minute ago, continue to be at record lows. 30-year fixed rates at 3 1/8, jumbo rates under 3%, FHA and VA 2.75%. These are purchase rates in the DC metro market, brought to you by PNC Mortgage. What's going on with the market?
In the last week in the Hampton Roads, we saw 776 new listings hit the market, 764 properties go pending, and 974 properties sold. In the last week in the Washington metro area, within 30 miles of the White House, we saw 1,438 new listings hit the market, 1,997 go pending, and 1,735 sold. Back over to Charlie with our special guest.
Thanks, Eyerusalem. It's my pleasure to welcome to the show Mr. Kevin Bailey with Community Title Network. Good to see you, and good morning, Kevin.
Good morning, Charlie. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Kevin's been an attorney for 5 years and is admitted in DC and Maryland, and he does all things closing. So we look forward to speaking with you. We spoke to somebody else with your company, Mike Ridgway, right when the pandemic hit. I think he and I probably had this conversation on the show in April. So things have changed a bit since then. I feel like we're all in kind of this new normal. How have things been going for you guys? What's happening in the settlement world in your markets?
So I manage two offices for Community Title Network. I've got an office in Kensington, Maryland, in Montgomery County, and then on 14th Street in Logan Circle neighborhood in Washington, D.C. And they're two very different markets in many ways, but also interrelated in others. A lot of things that we've been seeing regarding the settlement world have really been involving new ways to communicate with each other. I think we're all experiencing that in real estate generally. A lot of opportunities to learn from each other, to educate each other about what the steps and processes are, and to accommodate everyone's unique circumstances. What have we seen specifically? I think the biggest shift, and it was already a trend, but the biggest shift now has been almost entirely on all purchases, we have split signings.
Okay.
I mean, that is the number one sort of confirmed change. And I don't really see that going back in general. We have increasing demand for remote online notarization and in all of our markets. So I know Virginia has been there for quite some time, but now Maryland is headed that way. In October, it becomes remote online notarization becomes the law of the land. Currently exists under executive order, governor's order. So we're seeing shifts in that regard. All of our Virginia offices are now completely set up for self-driving remote online notarization. So all of our settlement agents in Virginia are now fully capable of doing online notarization themselves, myself included. I don't sit in Virginia very often, but if I do, I'm able to conduct those closings as well. But there's a lot to be learned about that process, and a lot of new conversations need to be had amongst all of the real estate professionals we work with.
So, real quick, can you explain what remote online notarizations are for anybody that might be unfamiliar with it?
Absolutely. So, remote online notarization is the same notary process for all documents that we normally would sign in person. You sit with a notary, but instead we're sitting like this today on a platform online using technology. We use a particular platform called Notarize, which is set up securely. There has to be certain protocols in place, identity check, security, but the documents are electronically signed during a meeting like this and electronically notary sealed. So all the notaries that you're sitting with or settlement attorneys or settlement agents that you're sitting with are also appointed electronic notaries in the jurisdiction where they're sitting.
Got it. Okay.
And so we're all Virginia notaries for that purpose. In Maryland, it will be here October 1st. They've already started appointing notaries, but they don't have the complete process set up yet.
Okay. What's going on with DC with that?
So DC is a funny situation. They're not as up to speed as Maryland or Virginia. However, the recording office permits the recordation of electronically notarized documents. So the recorder of deeds has no problem with documents that are executed in that manner. It's just not as feasible within the district. So what we end up doing is conducting the remote online notarization from wherever it's permitted, because the notary is permitted if it's valid in the jurisdiction where it's conducted. So yeah, it just if the notary is sitting in Virginia, and this is one of the remarkable things, and we've been doing this for a while, but now it's become more integrated into the normal way of doing business. You can have an individual sitting in Europe signing documents online with a notary sitting in Virginia while I'm conducting the settlement sitting in Maryland or sitting in the district in that case. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's certainly interesting. So are closings happening on time? We just heard from Eyerusalem and that our appraisers are really backed up, frankly, more backed up than what I've been hearing locally. Thankfully, it seems like locally we're in a little better shape. But what are you seeing? I know that the lenders are really still struggling in some cases.
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, closings are happening on time, but we're seeing a lot more lender issues to deal with that. I think a lot of it has to do with their capacity. A few months ago, when sort of the whole situation was unfolding, everyone was backed up. Everyone was trying to sort out how to conduct business. But now I think the biggest issue is just capacity. There's so much demand As Eyerusalem mentioned and you were discussing, interest rates are very, very low. So lenders are getting bombarded with orders for refinances and purchases, and the purchase market is doing great this summer.
Right.
So what we are seeing are matters related to lender coordination that slow things down. So I think it's very important to start the conversation early with the agents and the real estate agents, the realtors, your settlement partners, our office, and the lenders to understand and set the expectations early as to what needs to happen and when. And the ball needs to get rolling immediately from all sides because of issues like appraisers, which is a matter that comes up from time to time. The other issue that we're seeing are inspections, inspection contingencies, and repairs.
Okay.
Because a lot of it's the human element, getting people out to the property to make those repairs, getting necessary permits if required. So the government, the government might be backed up on getting you that information, and under the contract times of the essence. So if it takes an extra 3 or 4 days to even get something going, it can cause problems that sort of cascade down the road. And a lot of agents are doing a great job, I think, of communicating early, because everyone's on their toes right now, trying to ensure that the deals close on time. I think on the another issue we're seeing with lenders is confirmation of employment, like within 24 hours due to the emergency.
Yep.
And that's been a problem. So when you say closing on time, it'll close that day, but we've been there at 11 a.m. scheduled for 11 a.m., but the lender still hasn't confirmed employment, and all of a sudden we're closing at 4.
Do you feel like that's because the lender is backed up, or all parties didn't communicate well? Hey, hey boss, you're going to be getting a call right the day of closing or the day before. Please return that call promptly because I'm buying this house and the lender wants to confirm that I'm still employed.
So I really think that's a lender question, but I think what's more important about what the issue you raise is that's a great question for listing agents and buyer's agents to ask the lender, what will you need? We've got settlement coming up, a week out. What will you need this week in order to ensure that we're closing on time?
Right.
And I think that conversation needs to be, I think prudent agents in this day and age, in this market, what we're doing right now, should be having that conversation with our office and with the lenders. Ongoing, we try to have that conversation with everyone as well and keep everyone updated as to where their files stand. But, real estate is a number of moving parts. There's many people involved in a transaction, and everybody has to have their interests in line and aligned in order to get to the finish line.
Okay, yeah. So communication, I think, is key when it comes to setting the expectations right. The importance of the listing agent to be in contact with the lender, not just to have a conversation in that multiple offer situation to make sure that the number one contract is as solid as it looks on paper, but then also being in contact with that lender throughout the process to make sure that things are, that things are on track. And I think that we all, as listing agents, we need to probably be more prudent there than maybe we have been in the last few years.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think I think that just goes for everyone. I think everyone involved in a transaction should be speaking to everyone at all times right now. There are too many moving parts. The other thing that we're seeing with settlements are people's expectations may not be realistic as to how settlement can occur. So we mentioned remote online notarization. Now, that may or may not be available in your particular circumstance. That's a question that needs to be asked early. If you're interested in using it, the biggest impediment to remote electronic notarization is lender approval. Okay. So you need to get lender approval. If there's a loan of a cash, no problem. In all 3 jurisdictions, cash deals are no problem at all. But on a purchase loan, the lender has to sign off on it, both on the seller side and the buyer side. Generally, with conforming conventional loans, lenders have been perfectly fine with the sellers signing their deed electronically.
Okay.
But we haven't seen much movement, with few exceptions, on the buyer side. So getting your loan documents electronically notarized. And I could give you a few examples.
Sure.
Lenders are generally more agreeable to having their every document except for the deed of trust and the note signed electronically. Okay. Which sort of just complicates it. So then you still need a physical notary involved on a document. So sometimes it doesn't make sense. Fannie and Freddie reduced, or I would say modified their guidelines to permit remote electronic notarization on loan documents for investor purposes. And I think lenders are going to start jumping on board. This was about 2 months ago they did that. I think by the time we get to the fall, we're going to see more use of this technology. We're in a position to use it right now, as I mentioned earlier, and a lot of people are excited about that. It's just a matter of getting all of our business partners on board with the technology and everyone building an understanding of how it can work and how it should work.
Okay. We were talking the other day, and we were discussing that there's lots of people that are out of town right now. Like there's lots of sellers that are out of town, even buyers that are out of town, right? They're choosing to spend some of the pandemic away, and it's just so important. Again, getting back to the communication that we were talking about a minute ago. If somebody's not going to be around, you all need to know in advance so we can make arrangements. Yes.
I think so. Yes, absolutely. But I think that sometimes, and I've seen this where realtors clients just disappear without telling anyone, not even the realtor. So again, these are conversations that all of us should have early about what our expectations are when the settlement day arrives. We've dealt with a lot of it. I mean, we can accommodate those things. We can still do a physical remote notary. We can still do seller mail-aways. The traditional methods of addressing those issues still exist, but they do take a little more logistical effort to pull off. So a couple, what used to take 24 hours might take 3 days now.
Okay.
And I think everybody, and that goes with a lot of issues.
Sure.
The turnaround time, if you're dependent on the human element for multiple different people involved, it has slowed down a little bit. So yeah, communication, I think, resolves that.
Okay, awesome. Let's pivot and talk about some tools that you all have in place to help agents have a smoother transaction. Talk to me a little bit about apps that allow for remote deposit of earnest money.
Yeah, sure. So our company has adopted, and we've been using it for a few years now, the Zaka mobile deposit app. And it works just like a bank check mobile deposit. So if you're using the Bank of America app or the Wells Fargo app, and you can just pull out your cell phone and take a picture of the check and send it directly to our office securely. It's been working out great. It eliminates the need to coordinate a check drop off, FedEx overnight. People worry about time frames,
right?
Especially when we're remote. It just eliminates that. You download it from the Apple Store or the Google Play, put it on your phone, use it whenever you need to. Agents can use it, which has been remarkable, to make the deposit with their client, just then and there, as soon as the contract's ratified. Customers have downloaded it. It's been very, very popular. People appreciate the convenience. Get instant verification that the deposit has been made. You can attach your contract or an earnest money deposit agreement in Maryland,
okay,
which is necessary. So it's been working out great, and again, it allows us to work remotely and efficiently to get something like that handled. And I know EMDs matter. That's not quite the number one, but it's probably a top 5 question. Has the EMD been received? And this takes away all questions about that when you use the app. It's been great for that.
Okay, purpose. Cool, very good. A quick plug for the RE/MAX Allegiance agents that might be watching this. We have a tool with you guys that allows our associates to get paid a little bit quicker via direct deposit from your company in Virginia, and then I believe if it's not in place yet, it will be soon in DC and Maryland. They'll be able to get a check if we were doing physical settlements or direct deposit. So basically, and we may have agents out there that are thinking, well, I've always been paid by direct deposit. Well, in this case, the deposit is coming from CTN and it goes directly to the agent, right? Because the accounting processes that RE/MAX Allegiance needs to do have been done ahead of time. So basically, people can get paid quicker.
Yeah, and I think it's great. We're excited about rolling it out for Allegiance. One thing that we've seen, and this has been an issue with many different brokerages, when offices were closed, the question came up: well, where do we send your where do we send your commission checks? Where do we send the executed settlement statements? And there was a lot of confusion amongst agents, brokers. A lot of that's sort of been shored up, and a lot of brokerages have moved over to providing wire instructions, which is great. But this is even more convenient. It's even for everyone involved. As you mentioned, it sort of cuts out the middle. It allows us to deal with agents directly. It allows us to deal with the brokerage directly, and all this can be set up in advance. And with every deal, as agents bring more transactions, it just streamlines their process for them to get compensated for their hard work.
Yeah, those associates that were paperless when this happened have had a better time. And I could see the writing on the wall in March, and I knew we were going to have to close the offices, right, as we were, getting into late March. And I remember sending out many emails saying, we need, get wire instructions to your title companies, become paperless, because I don't know how long we're going to have staff in the offices. And then sure enough, we ended up having to close for a while. Chris Logan is one of our associates in Franconia. And he wrote in that he had a buyer use the Zachem app for their earnest money last week. They loved it. They said it was really easy. And he also received a notification of the deposit when it was done. So convenience for everyone. You guys also have some online calculators that allow agents to help sellers and buyers figure out how much money they're going to be receiving or how much money they need to put down. And then I know you're always available to, to give those, individual quotes if needed. So why don't you talk a little bit about, the online piece, and then if people need to get in touch with you, how, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the online calculator is great. It allows you to get a seller net sheet very quickly to get your estimation on your own. It's flexible. You can put it in a number of different formats. Instant title quotes, lender formats if they want to use it as well. It's been very helpful. What I encourage everyone to do when they use the calculator, it also you choose an office. So depending on the office you like to work with, we have many in the area, all available on the calculator. When you download the quote, it also has our contact information individually for the office. So I have my phone number, my email address. And I encourage everyone, once they use the calculator, which is very convenient and flexible, to just reach out to me, and I'll confirm the numbers and even set up a more robust quote for you and start that conversation early. If you have additional questions about what may or may not need to occur for this particular transaction, let me know. We can account for it. There have been. We've been getting great questions. I should say the calculator's been a great way to start those conversations.
Good. Awesome. So if somebody has more questions or wants to get a hold of you today, what's your email address?
My email address is kevin.bailey@communitytn.com, but my name's spelled B-A-Y-L-Y, so it gets spelled incorrectly a lot on email. So KEVIN.BAYLY@communitytn.com.
Awesome. And what's the best phone number if somebody wants to reach out to you?
So you can call our Kensington office at 301-886-8777. And it actually rings at both locations. We answer them both the DC and the Kensington office. It's a centralized number.
Okay, awesome. And then if realtors in the area have legal questions about deals, they're also able to reach out to you for advice as well, are they not?
I offer regularly general advice on matters of contract and transactions. We try to remain an impartial third party when it comes to these deals, but when it comes to providing general guidance on matters, I'm in touch with many agents, especially in DC. Everyone has questions about TOPA and tenants' rights. Right. And it's very important that we do handle those deals correctly and appropriately. And if you're contemplating a deal like that and you're unsure about the next few steps, let me know early. And I've worked with a number of agents on allegiance with this over the course of time. Happy to be available so that the deal begins correctly, so that it can close correctly.
Awesome, good. Yeah, I feel like TOPA's gotten better, but it's still it's still certainly more complex than, say, dealing with tenants in Virginia. That's for sure.
Sure. And Maryland also has its own unique laws. The earnest money agreement is one of the the big kickers that many agents are still learning how to deal with. So if you have any questions about that, reach out.
Awesome. Very good. So we'll leave it there. Kevin Bailey, Community Title Network. Always good to see you. Appreciate you being on the show, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Yeah, thank you, Charlie. You do the same. Enjoy yourself.
Thank you. Back over to Eyerusalem.
Thank you so much for watching. And as always, we are here to make your real estate career better. Happy
Have a
Friday.
great weekend, everybody. Take care. Thanks.